Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katie. I am the Introverted Reader, and today's video is part 2 of my in-depth on Moonwalk by Michael Jackson. I did the first part over the week. When did I do the first bit? I think over the weekend there, a few days ago. But yes, I did a part 1 where we discussed chapters 1 to 3 of Michael Jackson's memoir. So in this one, we're going to be looking at the latter chapters 4, 5, and 6. And I have a lot of notes. I have a lot of notes. So let's just get to it. I'm going to keep the book on my knee because I'm going to be referring back. I'm actually just going to leave it here. I just leave it there. Yeah, I'm going to be referring back to it a little bit throughout this video. So, for the second half of Moonwalk, we left off in the first one where he first met Quincy Jones. Now, he actually first met Quincy Jones when he was about 12 years old, but they properly became acquainted on the set of The Wiz, which was the movie that Michael did with Diana Ross. The sort of more modern version of Wizard of Oz, I guess you could say. And Michael was playing the Scarecrow, and that's where him and Quincy first met, because Quincy was doing the score. Quincy was a really famous composer. And anyway, after all of that, they became friends and whatever. And Michael says that he called Quincy one day, or Q, as he used to call him. He called him one day and he was all like, "Hey, I'm going to be doing another solo album. I was just wondering if you knew anyone who would be a producer for me." And Q thought that he was hinting, but he really wasn't. And in the book it says, "Look, I'm going to do an album. Do you think you could recommend some producers?" I wasn't hinting. My question was a naive but honest one. We talked about music for a while, and after coming up with some names and some half-hearted hemming and hawing, he said, "Why don't you let me do it?" I really hadn't thought of it. It sounded to him as if I was hinting, but I wasn't. I just didn't think he'd be interested in my music. So I stammered something like, "Oh, sure, great idea. I never thought about that." Quincy still kids me about it. Anyway, we immediately began to plan the album that became Off the Wall, which, by the by, celebrated its 47th birthday just yesterday, which is crazy. It's absolutely wild. So yeah, he called him up and asked him, like, "Hey, any producers?" And then back and forth for a bit. Quincy was like, "I can do it." Are you hinting that you want me to do it? But so yeah, so Off the Wall was really Michael's chance to put out something that was all him. He wasn't associated with his brothers anymore. He had his own, his father wasn't his manager anymore. He turned 21, and he got his own, legal representation and everything. So he was just like, "This is my first real chance to put something out there that's all me. I'm writing songs. I've got my own producer. I'm ready. Let's go." So, but it was a pretty stressful time for him. Definitely a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of stress, and talking about it was difficult for him navigating what he was gonna do and how he was gonna handle things on his own. And a lot of people wanted a lot of things from him. A lot of times people would ask him to do something or take care of something, he'd just do it, even if he was under a bit of pressure anyway. He said, "I'd be asked to do something or take care of something, and I would agree, even if I worried that it might be more than I could handle. I felt under a great deal of stress, and I was often emotional. Stress can be a terrible thing. You can't keep your emotions bottled up for long." And a lot of people were hinting at the fact that, "Oh, is he really still interested in music? Is he really still as passionate about music as he was? Because, he was in a movie, a big movie with Diana Ross. Is he just going to go on ahead and be a movie star now?" And even though he did love movies, he did have a great love of movies. And, he's very passionate about that and storytelling and everything. But, music was always his first love. And yeah, he also mentions in this chapter about how this period of his life, so the Off the Wall period, was one of the most difficult periods in his life, personally. Obviously professionally things going great, but he was a very lonely soul. He was a very lonely person. He didn't really have any friends. Um, and it's mentioned in the book that he would wander around the neighborhood, trying to like ask people, just like asking people if they would be, um, how it'd be, if they would be his friend, basically looking for someone to just be friends with, not just because of who he was, but because they wanted to be his friend. They liked him as a person and not a pop star. I'm looking to see if I have a section right out here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it says I used to walk through my neighborhood hoping I'd run into somebody I could talk to and perhaps become friends with. I wanted to meet people who didn't know who I was. I wanted to run into somebody who would be my friend because they liked me and needed a friend too, not because I was who I am. I wanted to meet anybody in the neighborhood kids, anybody. Success definitely brings on loneliness, it's true. People think you're lucky that you have everything. They think you can go anywhere and do anything, but that's not the point. One hungers for the basic stuff. So yeah, feeling very lonely. He felt very isolated, walking around the neighborhood looking for someone who would be his friend, um, which is a very, very sad sort of image. And I'm sure quite a lot of us could relate to that. Obviously, I'm not famous and successful, and I can leave my house anytime I want and take a walk in the park or go to the movies or literally do anything. But like, he couldn't do that. The more and more famous he got, like he couldn't do those like really basic things, which is really quite depressing when you think about it. So, um, oh yeah, and it's a and obviously, throughout making Off the Wall, and Off the Wall was great. It was wonderful. It's iconic. It's amazing. Only got one Grammy nomination. Like, dude, one Grammy nomination. Even though he did win it, I'm like, the Grammys been fixed, okay? Like, screw the Grammys for sure. And like Michael was a person that really believed in magic. Like, if you ever listen to him speak, he was a very whimsical, spiritual person. And he definitely believed in the power of wishes. For his biggest wish for a really, really long time was to make the greatest selling album ever, like ever made. And he'd make that wish every single day. And he was asked once if like the next album after Off the Wall didn't do as well, if it didn't do as well, would he be disappointed? And he was, obviously like very hurt by that, just like, why would you ask me that? But then he's like, no, it's going to do even better. It's going to do even better than any album that's ever been made ever. And then we get the whole rundown of Michael making Thriller. So, obviously, putting, him sitting down with Quincy and thinking about, all the different songs and everything, like Billie Jean, Beat It, talking about PYT. And I think, how many songs did he write for? He wrote Billie Jean, he wrote Beat It, Want to Be Starting Something, and I think he wrote Baby Mine as well. I might be completely wrong. But talking about Beat It, that was a very iconic moment because he had having actual gang members in that video, and and he says in the book that the guys that they brought in, they were all very, very real, but like they were just guys that wanted to get noticed. They weren't looking to start anything. And with Beat It, the song itself, he said that he wanted to put out a rock song, and the type of rock song that he would want to go out and buy, and bring home and listen to. And, talking about like all the gang members they brought in, he said that they were the nicest bunch of guys that he'd ever encountered. They were really polite, really humble, clean up after themselves, and what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and they would hang out outside his trailer all the time, and he'd come out and take pictures with them, give autographs and albums, tickets to the Victory Tour, like anything, like he really liked and respected them a lot. And and like the whole making of putting the like physical Thriller album together, CBS was really rushing them to like get it out quickly, like we need to get this out, like we've got a date set, we gotta go. But like Michael knew that it wasn't ready for the time when CBS said that they wanted it out. And the first time they actually sat down and listened to Thriller, it was so bad. He said that it sounded so crappy. He just wanted to like curl up in a ball and cry. But then they explained to CBS, no, we need more time. This isn't ready yet. Because, he was the artist. He knew. So he was just like, and then they completely wiped the slate clean. They wiped the slate clean and started all over again, and actually sat down really and concentrated and did it right. And the result is what we get now. And another funny thing about that is the song "Lady in My Life." I know y'all probably heard this story, but for those who haven't, Quincy wasn't overly like pleased with like all the takes that Michael was giving, and he sort of pulls him to the side and he's like, "Listen, I need you to get in there and beg." Because, if you listen to Lady in My Life, it's a very sensual, sexy song. And, Michael kind of had trouble showing that side of himself. Not that he couldn't, but, he would just get embarrassed really easily, And, Quincy was like, "I need you to go in there and beg. Like, really, like, I need yearning." So Michael's like, okay, I'll do it. And then he got them to close the curtains of the booth so they weren't looking at him. And he went in, they played the track, and he went in and begged. And that's the result that you hear now. So now you know. And Motown 25. Now, have I got a section here that I want to read out from Motown 25? No, I don't think so. But yeah, Motown 25 was something he originally didn't want to do, because he didn't really have a very good view of TV and television and everything. He didn't want to be on TV. Unless obviously it was a short film or something he'd made or whatever. He wasn't not a big TV fan. I guess it brought back horrible memories for when him and his brothers did a variety show way back when, and he hated it. But yeah, anyway, so originally he said no, he wasn't going to do Motown 25, but then he got talked into it, and he was like, "Fine, I'll do it. But I want to perform Billie Jean." And they were like, "Okay." Even though Billie Jean is obviously his song, it's not a Motown song, but y'all know what happened. Y'all know. And like, yeah, it was just, and he talked about how like, he wasn't fully satisfied after that performance, and because he, doing the moonwalk for the first time, and he did the spin, he wanted to stay up on his toes a little bit longer, but that didn't end up happening, and he felt really bad. But then the response to it just overwhelmed all of that. Like, Fred Astaire, one of his idols, called him the next day and told him he was a hell of a mover, that he'd watched the performance numerous times and that he taped it, and he was like, "You really put them on their asses, like, you did so good." And all of that, everything else just went out the window. He was like, "You know what? Imagine one of your idols just calling you up and telling you how great you are. Like, that is wild." And and then, Thriller era continuing on and everything. And obviously he wanted, obviously Michael didn't make music videos, he made short films. And one of the most iconic short films was the Thriller short film. And, making all of that, and, was great. And obviously the making of Thriller documentary is probably one of the biggest selling sort of making of documentaries ever. Like, it's still breaking news now. It's crazy. I'm going to just keep moving along so I don't waste your time. And anyway, so obviously, throughout this time, Michael's appearance is starting to change because, like I said in the previous video, he changed his diet. He became a vegetarian, cut out meat completely. And, he lost a lot of weight. His face took on its present form. And I have a section in here that I want to read out. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Talking about the plastic surgery. He says, "I'd like to set the record straight right now. I have never had my cheeks altered or my eyes altered. I have not had my lips thin, nor have I had dermabrasion or a skin peel. All these charges are ridiculous. If they were true, I would say so, but they aren't. I've had my nose altered twice, and I recently added a cleft to my chin, but that's it. Period. I don't care what anyone else says. It's my face, and I know. And listen, you can call me naive, you can call me stupid, I don't care. That's what he says, I believe him. That's what I say. That's what he says. Then I believe it. What's that for? Oh yeah, never mind. So, and the last little bit I want to talk about is the Pepsi incident. Now, first and foremost, he says in the book that the whole reason for that whole accident, stupidity, pure and simple. And y'all know, he got burned on that set with the flash bombs. Third degree burns on his scalp, nerve damage. It was really, really bad, like really, really bad. And yeah, and he says in the book that he could have been a lot like not nice to Pepsi. Like none of the Pepsi executives came to see him. None of them came to see if he was okay. And yeah, I think he got like a $1.5 million, and he donated all the money to the burn center that he was being treated at. And yeah, he could have been he could have run Pepsi into the ground. I believe that. I fully believe that had he sued Pepsi, none of us would be drinking Pepsi to this day. I don't anyway. I would rather drink toilet water. Anyway, and you know, the Victory Tour and everything coming up. Originally, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do the Victory Tour, but he got talked into it. He says he did it for his brothers. And there's a documentary about the Victory Tour on YouTube that I recommend everybody watch. Like, go watch that documentary. It goes into a lot more detail, but wow, that tour was a mess. And then doing the song We Are the World, gathering all those people together, doing all that. And Captain EO, I'm basically just glossing over everything right now because I want to get into Michael's best work, and that was the Bad album, which I fully stand by what I just said. It's his best work. And Bad took a long time to put together, like 4+ years, because Michael was a perfectionist, okay? And this is the section I want to read out. In many ways, an artist is his work. It's difficult to separate the two. I think I can be brutally objective about my work as I create it, and if something doesn't work, I can feel it. And when I turn in a finished album or song, you can be sure I've given it every ounce of energy and God-given talent that I have. He never half-assed anything. Like, he wasn't like, oh, quickly put this together, throw it out there, it's fine. No. He would work on a song until he dropped. That was the type of person that he was. And yeah, the same for Bad. Like, honestly, I definitely believe Bad is his best work. And listen, all of his albums are iconic. We know that. Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad, History, Dangerous, Invincible, which is turning 25 soon. Are we going to get an anniversary version of that? I don't know. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's hope so. And yeah, and I want to end with this little section at the back here. He says, to me, nothing is more important than making people happy, giving them a release from their problems and worries, helping to lighten their load. I want them to walk away from a performance I've done saying, that was great, I want to go back again, I had a great time. To me, that's what it's all about. That's wonderful. All he ever wanted was to make good music and make people happy. And yeah, that's my in-depth on Moonwalk. I feel like I've yapped for long enough on here, but thank you all for watching these. I really appreciate you guys. And yeah, I love y'all. All my socials are down below as always. Feel free to follow me on any of them. Any of the sister wives from Threads watching this video. Hello, hi, how are ya? Leave a like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. And yeah, I love y'all. Bye.